Yeah, I've been listening to some of your podcasts. They're so cool.
Thanks. Which
Just
is
like just really cool like topics. Like just overall. Like I like that it's a little bit of everything so that you get like multiple audiences instead of just like fitness only or it's pretty cool. Yeah.
everybody said at the very beginning that a lot of people that I talked to said at the very beginning that I need to be interviewing a lot of people. I should find my niche,
Mm-hmm.
and then I can after that gravitate towards different niches. But
Yeah.
I think then I did that. I used to listen to one podcast that I got into for fitness,
Uh-huh.
and then all of a sudden started becoming like super, like not really science based anymore.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it as much, and I got very almost disappointed a little bit, and so I
Yeah.
ended up losing it, and I'm no longer there.
Yeah.
But if I start with this is what we are, this is what we're gonna do,
Mm-hmm.
and then later in the future, if I really want to make a niche, then I can. But I never want to really niche. Like my niche is like health, fitness, entrepreneurship, business, education. Like why be like so centered on just one form of education?
Yeah. And I think it's cool too because a lot of the stuff that you talk about on your podcast can be related to a lot, like everybody can resonate with it. Even if it is a fitness podcast, like there's still very common themes and topics that resonate with people, like losing weight, like body dysmorphia. There's so many different things that you can discuss. So it's pretty awesome.
It's an endless world of conversation, really. And like you get to learn about a concept that's ultimately transferable to a different industry. So I might be listening to somebody who's in the industry of health and fitness, but then as I am somebody who's in real estate, I can transfer those same skills and knowledge to how do I treat and manage people into treating and manage people over here. And it's like somebody's done it in this field that was very successful. So then just pull that over here, right? It's I think they're very
I didn't know you
similar.
were in real estate.
Yeah, I
That's
was
so
in
cool.
a little bit of real estate. So I did real estate for a short period of time. I guess I own my house in Texas. Looking to buy real estate here.
Nice.
So this house is owned, and it was part of the initial goal of having like a large conglomerate of real estate properties.
Nice.
Looking at one in New York. It's like a small little cabin, good for Airbnbs, and then also just good for
Yeah.
travel.
Yes.
So in northern New York out there, and then and then there's another one in a trust in the valley. So yeah.
Oh my
like,
gosh.
yeah. So
You're just everywhere.
a little bit. Yeah, it's kind of the goal, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
create an empire, right?
Yeah, and like it's interesting because I listened to Grant Cardone's one topic about real estate, right? Because he's pretty big on that. And he was like, buying a house is like the worst thing you could do and I was like, well, I'm just so curious about that. So what are your thoughts on that? Because I feel like what his point was saying was that like rent until like you have the capital to pretty much like actually invest into buying a home because you're going to spend so much time paying mortgage on it. But obviously you're on the real estate aspect of it. So is that like good advice or like for the younger generation, I guess?
I think that if you can afford it and like you have something stable enough, then yeah, buy immediately.
Right. That's what I'm thinking
That's an
too.
interesting. I want to stop renting and giving my money away.
I'll show you the video that he put up because it was intriguing because he's like, you should never buy. It's like, it's stupid to buy. He literally starts the video with that. So again, I don't really know real estate as much, right? So it's hard for me to kind of understand, I guess. But he was basically saying that like wasting your money on buying a home when you don't actually know like that this is going to be the home that you want, and then just rent until you have the capital to be able to. But then I'm thinking to myself, well, mortgage is cheaper, so like, why would you not? Right? So
Build equity or give my money away.
listen, yeah.
I mean,
so
come on, like that's a no-brainer.
I have no like seriously, I'm not knowledgeable on this at all. So
I think that I always go to say like what is the mouth that it's coming from, right? Is it somebody that owns a lot of rental properties?
mhm.
Yeah, don't rent or don't buy.
Right.
Come rent,
I see what you're saying.
right? Like, why would you waste your money over there when you can just spend it over here?
Mm.
Because at the end of the day, I'm the one that's winning. And sure, maybe my rent's lower than maybe what market would be,
Yeah.
but I'm still making my nut well over.
Right.
So
Right.
I don't know. Hi, welcome back. Hi, welcome to the podcast. So today we have Angela, and Angela, where are you from? Why are we here? What are we doing?
Yeah, great question. Thank you for having me here. So I actually am from Jersey. I grew up in South Jersey, so almost kind of a Philly girl, I guess you can say. I spent a lot of time in Philadelphia. My dad's also from Philly, so big Eagles fans. Go Birds.
Nice.
But yeah, so long story short, I grew up with my father being a lieutenant and my mom is a registered nurse. So grew up in a really nice community in Jersey and pretty much did the typical go to college. I played volleyball. I played collegiate volleyball, which was really fun. And ended up with an athletic training career. So I actually was working with the Philadelphia Eagles for a few years at a private alternative practice, which was amazing. So
Go
much
Eagles.
experience. Yeah, telling you, go Birds all the way. But yeah, it was a really cool job. And I was like a medical assistant. So lots of experience. Thought about medical school. And then, long story short, ended up being in an accelerated nursing program. And then why I'm here is because my boyfriend, Ashton, he pretty much, I mean, we were in a very, very dark place, I think, in terms of what we wanted out of life. I think there was a point in our life where we were like, damn, like, this is it. You know, like everyone has this huge dream of like your career goals and this and that. And we were like, man, like going to work, like it sucks. Like I'm so unhappy. And there was a point in time where even like our relationship was relatively fragile because he was so miserable and so was I. And overnight, I swear to you, he just started looking up like ways to make money online, looked into affiliate marketing, drop shipping. I mean, you know, Amazon, whatever, like all that shit that people are doing nowadays.
All the stuff.
Yeah. And he was like, okay, well, I have a lot of connections into like getting into all of these programs to learn how to start an agency. And he pretty much just like bought an LLC, got into starting an agency, partnered with somebody. And I pretty much dropped out of an accelerated nursing program to come join him on this. And now we are hopefully building an empire together doing that. So that's what I'm doing here.
There's a lot there. There's a lot there. So backtracking to, I guess, the point of going through undergrad, and then did you know what you wanted to do initially coming into school, or were you focused on athletics?
I think being an athlete, I was like super about sports and athletics, right? And also being 21, 22, relatively young, I was like, that was like the first thing that I really got into. I had a taste of it. And then being with the Eagles, also throughout the Super Bowl when they won, I mean, that's obviously a very significant reason for me to stay in the field, to continue working. I was comfortable. I was very comfortable. And I think that that can be really dangerous sometimes, because it led me to believe that, okay, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. But again, no offense to them, love the Eagles, but me constantly catering to them, like the actual physical labor of, I mean, every healthcare profession that there is, there's so much that goes into it, but your opportunity is so slim and it will always be limited unless you go back into school and you invest more time, get more into debt, and then you could possibly increase your salary just a little bit. Right. So there was just no guarantee besides the fact that, okay, maybe I will have a stable income, but I'm never going to accomplish the things that I want to. Yeah, maybe I can get into real estate. Yeah, maybe I can do that, but you have to build the capital in order to do that in the first place. So I think that's when I started to think to myself, like, okay, maybe this isn't what I want to do and I want to pursue something more. So I applied to PA schools. I applied for, so many different like MD programs, DO programs, and I didn't get in. Literally, like I'm just gonna be straight up. I didn't get in, and I was like, "Damn, I'm fucking stupid." Like, I'm sorry, I don't know if I could curse on here. Okay, but yeah, I was like, "Damn, like I'm fucking stupid. Like, why can't I do this?" And then I was just like, "Okay, well, I still want to do something in the medical field." So I tried accelerated nursing program, and then God literally was like, "Okay, sure, you can do this." Got into the accelerated program, and then that's shortly when.
Support for Ben Thinking is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below the waist grooming. Their products are precision engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package is the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 8 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code THINKING at manscaped.com. If my math is correct, that's about 16 million balls. I got my lawnmower and weed whacker recently, and I immediately put the weed whacker inside of my nostrils. No nicks, no snags, and I have never been able to smell things as good as after I used the weed whacker. The crop preserver makes my balls smell nice every single day that I'm in the gym, and of course, we love that. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code THINKING at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code THINKING. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.
Yeah, that was really tough. Telling my nursing professors after like the first semester, like, yeah, I'm just not going to do this anymore.
It's a hell of several leaps. And I think that, I relate very much so when I got into school and was like, what am I really doing? And then trying to like get out. And I knew that I wanted to get into something health and fitness related, but I didn't want to be a coach. But then the program I was in was geared towards coaching, was working with the A&M team, was working as an athletic trainer. And then I got out and I was like, I still don't know what I want to do. Like, I guess construction, the next thing that was going to ultimately pay me, because it wasn't going to be that route.
Yeah.
And it just became oddly difficult to parlay outside of it never felt like it was the right next move. And I couldn't get into schools, and I couldn't, there was the PT programs were insane. Like, to get into a PT school is absolutely ridiculous.
I tried that too.
I
couldn't get in.
I knew friends that already had their masters, were working on their doctorate, and the only reason they were working on their doctorate and doing like high level research was because that they didn't get into the DPT program. And it was like, you can't get into the DPT program, but you can do some like crazy NASA research or some WHO research, like working with the WHO. And it was like, I think there's a lot of people to sift through, and I don't really understand entirely. I don't think you necessarily need to be smart to get into schools all the time. I think it's just, I don't know, it's connections a lot of the time.
Gosh,
I think that's a lot of, I think you learn that in like, that's life. Like, connections are very powerful, very useful.
Everything.
It is.
Yeah, absolutely. But another thing that I think about is like, I always have this mantra of like, all these no's in life are going to lead to a bigger yes. So I've had the door slammed in my face multiple times of like all these different careers. I wore so many different hats, and I'm 29 now, right? So throughout my entire 20s, and this is the last year that I get to live it.
That's gotta
depressing.
feel good.
But throughout those years, like, I was a personal trainer, I was a medical assistant, I was a GI technician, surgical assistant, like nursing student. I mean, seriously, like, you name it under the sun. But I never, ever received the reward that I was looking for when I was searching and searching and searching. And not to say that any of those professions are negative. This is just my point of view of like my journey. And I really didn't feel rewarded at all. And then going into the pandemic, going to school during the pandemic, it showcased even more how poorly the medical field and staff are treated nowadays. And it's like, I hate that. I hate that the almost the most important job that there is, right? They're helping humanity, literally, right? They are treated the worst. And I couldn't live with that. I'm so cutthroat about stuff. Maybe that's the Jersey girl in me or something, but I just feel like I was like, no, I'm taking a stance on that. I don't deserve that and all the work that I put into it. So yeah, man. And my mom's a nurse too. So she's like suffering multiple injuries, had multiple surgeries because she spent 30 years as a bedside nurse in critical care. So it's like the after effects, like that's happening to her body's just like breaking down. So again, it's tough.
What do you mean by they are treated poorly?
Yeah. Well, gosh, that can mean a number of things, but I think I can speak for most healthcare professionals that there's kind of this, how do I say this? This like weird rule, like unsaid rule that the patient is always right. Okay. And that can mean, I mean, same with, I partially own a business now. So kind of the same concept where you want to make sure that the other person on the other side is happy. But in healthcare, I think it's abused heavily. So there are people that, again, you're laying on a bed, maybe your deathbed. We don't know how sick you are. And I'm your nurse. I'm here to take care of you. I'm literally watching out for you to make sure you don't die. Right? Like, and they're just awful. They will spit on you. So like my cousin, for example, she's a nurse and love her to death. But one thing that she goes through constantly is like these men, right? She's an Asian female nurse. She's young, she's pretty, she's beautiful. You know, and I'm not just saying that to be biased. Like she's young, she's beautiful. So these guys are absolutely rude to her. There's racial slurs. They'll touch her. They'll force her to do things that clearly they can do by themselves, but just the fact that they know that they have the power to tell her to do things for them because she has to do it. And then when she brings it to her charge nurse will clap back and not stick up for her, but instead say, hey, the patient needs help with this, so you need to do that, or it's a write-up or something like that, right? So it's like she's not even supported by the top guys or whatever, right? And I think that is just mentally deteriorating. I think it's like dehumanizing, to be honest. It's a big stance of mine. I'm just like, we're all human too. So the fact that like I'm here full time to take care of you and you're treating me this way, I mean, why is that okay? Why is that tolerated? You know?
I wonder why that is tolerated. I think it caught me off guard initially because I'm like, okay, well, they get paid pretty well. And it seems like a fairly, I mean, I guess you kind of like, I don't want to clean shit, right? But you kind of understand that that's part of the gig if you sign up for it. But that piece of it is definitely something that's maybe not so ideal. Less than not ideal, right? It's just wrong. But I don't know how you stop that problem. If the role is to do with the customer, and I'm going to call a patient a customer because ultimately that's what they are.
Very sick customers.
Very sick customers that are reliant on this very large bill.
Yes.
At what point do you say no?
Oh gosh. I mean, but that's like a bigger thing, right? So it's like nurses don't sign up for that.
Correct.
Right? Like, I hate that whole concept of like, well, this is what you signed up for. Like, this is what you know that the profession is about. No, it's not just about wiping people's ass and doing that. Like, you go through extensive schooling. Again, they don't even teach you most of the shit that you're going to run into once you're actually on the floor, by the way. Yeah, literally. So it's like, to me, I think that this isn't ever going to stop. Like, that was my biggest reason for why I left, because you see our country right now and how fragile it is currently, and especially with like healthcare workers. Like, you see nurses, like there was that huge case about that nurse that dispensed either the wrong drug or the wrong amount of drug and administered it to somebody, and it ended up killing the patient, right? If I took an average American that has never been in healthcare before and put them on a floor, like a med surg floor, critical care, or emergency room, okay, you have no fucking idea how crazy it is. And especially when someone's life is on the line, I mean, thinking is not even a thing. You act. That's what healthcare is that in school they teach you, hey, this is the shit that could potentially happen, but you have to be able to, I guess, be a really good critical thinker and think like, okay, this person is turning blue and his sats are dropping and this and that. Like, you have to think and connect everything that you learn, everything you've experienced. You don't have time to sit there and contemplate, well, if I do this calculation, no, you have to just go. So it's like, I don't think that healthcare workers will ever really be appreciated at the level that they need to be. And that's something that I had to deal with and something that sat with me, which is why I made the decision to leave. You know? Yeah.
I relate on, I think preventative healthcare is, I think, underrated, but definitely growing in its power, I guess. Like, I went to Restore the other day, which is a place that's right down the street.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
And so I went to go get an IV drip. And it was a very different experience than going to the doctor. I'm still seeing a nurse practitioner. I'm going to go and get my glutathione and my magnesium and my glutamine. And it was a warm experience that I think is paid fairly well for the most part. Sorry. There you go. So it's definitely growing in its power and its space, but I think that like in a gym, it's still unfortunately underrated a little bit.
Yeah. And I also really, I feel so strongly about this, but I really hate shitty trainers that don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Which is why it's a bad rap. 100%.
Like, first of all, like, I am not somebody who ever fat shames. I'm not somebody who ever comments on someone else's body. But if you have a trainer that does not take care of themselves and you see the level of just, again, like, I think it's all about discipline. It's like if your body and how you look, your appearance, how you dress, the way you live your life, the things that you say, the shit that comes out your mouth is a impression of who you are, right? So it's like if you don't have the discipline to take care of yourself, why would I be motivated and want to listen to you? And it just sucks, like going to gyms and seeing these horrible trainers. This one guy I saw at the gym, again, does not take care of himself at all. Had this like 70-year-old woman doing like box jumps and step ups with like an 80-pound like jacket. Again, she's my age. I mean, my height. Yeah. And just like this tiny woman doing stuff like that. Again, like she's at risk for osteoporosis. Like I think about the other things like outside of just working out. And I think that's also the problem is the stigma in the gym community that just because I have a NASM degree means that I know everything. Yeah, you know what I mean?
You know very little. Really.
Oh my
realistically,
gosh.
like in the field of health and fit, like you know a sect, and so like you can stay within your area, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But when we start branching out, and you can branch out. Don't get me wrong. You can branch out, learn, get educated in different areas with guidance and in a space that allows for that. But if it's just trying it out on a couple clients, like you try it on yourself and then maybe have a collaboration of other trainers, maybe that somebody knows more than you, go get more certifications, go get more knowledge and then apply it, then it makes more sense. But even those fundamental skills of maybe that this person is a falling hazard, they are a falling risk.
Oh my gosh.
And if we break something here, then it's not just like oops, we broke a bone, we got to go to the hospital. It's like, did I create a big enough fracture that it's going to tear an artery in the middle of the gym and this person bleeds out and dies right here?
You have no idea. Literally none.
Yeah.
It's wild. And I think that stems to like my next point about like how people are just masters of everything. Everyone is like TikTok, for example. It's like people are teaching everybody how to do everything in life just because they've done it once or whatever the case is. And that's the rep in this industry too. Like with me and Ashton and Brian's agency right now, people are teaching other people. They're calling themselves consultants and they say like, oh, we'll teach you how to build a business from the ground up, or we'll teach you how to get to whatever. And they've never done it. It doesn't make any sense to me. How can you teach somebody, get somebody to give you thousands of dollars and trust you to teach them how to do something that you've never done? So there's so many fucking phonies out there. That's what I call them. So many phonies.
How do you sift through those phonies?
Well, I mean, so my role in the company right now, so I am supposed to be the director of client success, but I've actually had to take over the front end of the sales portion or department, right? So essentially speaking, I'm the one that's vetting out all the individuals and letting them through the door. I'm kind of like the gatekeeper. And then once I let a prospect through the door is then when Brian will close them on a closing call, which is awesome. Great win for us. And then Ashton is all the operations. So he sets up all the accounts, our conversational AI bot, all the funnels, the ads, all of it. Right. And then we have some employees that are also helping with that process, which is dope to even say that. And so the way that I'm sifting through it is I ask very specific questions on these calls, and I can tell very, very easily and very soon when somebody tries to tell me about their business, because I ask them about their success, because we have very strategic partnerships. We don't just help anybody if they don't see the vision. right? Because we're one of those companies where we have a system, we implemented it, we've been able to get a 10x ROI, and now we're teaching you how to do exactly what we did. And it's sustainable because we're still up and running, right? So we're one of those companies where it's like, no, we're not going to just like tell you what to do because we know it works. No, we have the data and we can show you the metrics that this shit is really going to help you scale. So me, I'm just super transparent and cutthroat, and I ask them questions about their business. And if I can tell that they know nothing about their business, or maybe they need help understanding the premises, of course. But there's a lot of guys that have a lot of ego in this space, like a male dominant, for sure, like field, which is really tough because I listen to Layla Hermosi a lot. I'm not sure if you listen to the Hermosis, right? And I love her deeply because she is such a strong female in this space, and she gets bashed. I mean, I read some of the comments that some of these guys are saying, and it's hilarious because she claps back and says, "This is why you're broke." And it's so funny that she says that. And it's true. Like, there's just so many phonies out there. Everybody's all talk. Everyone will put up a front. But at the end of the day, it's like, what is the purpose behind what it is that you're doing? And so, like, some of the guys that we consult with, I'm like, what is the vision? Like, what's the purpose of what you're trying to do? Are you trying to help people, or are you just trying to make more money? And most of them will just say, well, I'm just trying to make more money. And I'm like, okay, but if you focus on that, then you're not going to get anywhere, because ultimately you're not going to be able to help people, and then you're not going to be able to make money.
Putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. You got to help people. You got to create a system, or let's say I own a gym. I want to create a gym, a culture that allows for the people using the service to get the most out of the service.
Of course.
Not just, where can I cut as many corners as I can to pull in as much money as I can?
Yeah. And then you got to think about like the LTV, the lifetime value of all of those clients sticking around, because that's revenue, right? Just coming in every single month, guaranteed revenue. So it's like, if you cut that cord off a little too fast and people don't trust you, then you can't scale. You'll always be stuck. So I think like it's all about intention. And that's something that I hit really hard on my calls when I am doing some prospecting, is like, what is the goal? And a lot of them say, well, I want to make passive income and travel the world. Okay, great. That's a great goal, right? And then there's so many people that are just so stuck on the money aspect that it's tough to work with people.
It's tough to work with people who only are focused on money? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because I think that I love speaking to people when I know that they're genuine in everything that they do and they have no malicious intent, because I've lost so many friendships because of that. Because Ashton and I, we're always going to have your back. Whether or not we agree with something or disagree with something, we'll voice it to you. I'm very confrontational, so I will 100% voice it to you.
Jersey.
Yeah, right. But at the end of the day, like, you're my best friend, or you're my family, or you're my bestie. Like, I'm going to support you through the ups and the downs, but at the same time, it's like, your life has to be intentional. If you live it just kind of going through the daily motions, you're never going to find what you're looking for. So if you live every single day with pure intentions of like going towards something that is going to be positive, I think you're going to find success. And I think that goes for any industry, really. But entrepreneurs, I think Alex Hormozi dropped a video of a podcast that he was actually on, and he was saying that, like, with entrepreneurship, it's like there's no guarantee, there's no safety net, there's no certainty that what you're doing and spending all these fucking hours doing is actually going to pay off. And that constant state of anxiety is kind of what keeps us going. So it's like, I'm not really a huge adrenaline junkie. Like, I don't even like roller coasters, you know? Yeah, like, freaking hate them. Absolutely fucking having a panic attack, right? And it's like the uncertainty of that still, for some reason, keeps me going, because I'm like, damn, but if this does pay off, this is going to fucking be sick.
I think even I liked not if, but when. Yeah. When this does pay off, right?
Right.
I think the way we speak, we put that out into the world, and it's like, it's not if. It's like, yes, sure, to some degree that's a bet, but I'm betting on myself, and I'm trusting enough in myself that it's gonna work. Yeah. So it's when this works, and it might not look the way I think it's gonna look, but it's gonna fucking work out.
For sure. And I think it's Also, like I always say to Ashton, because like you can have a million good ideas, but without execution, you won't fucking get anywhere. Right. And Ashton always has amazing ideas and always executes. And me and Brian, no joke, there has never been a time that me and Brian are like, no, man, we're not doing that. Like we're always like, okay, well, why? Of course, like we need an explanation, but gosh, he's just an executor. And I think that's what's made us to get to this point and scale it at this point and at this rate, is because you have to execute. You can't just sit there and manifest and just assume that the world is just going to drop it into your lap or your lap. It's just not going to work that way.
What are some intentions that you have moving forward in your life right now?
Wow, that's a loaded question. Honestly, to be like super transparent, my grandparents are getting old. And there was actually a period where my grandma almost died. So she was in Korea, and the reason they flew out there, was because I believe my grandfather was receiving some Medal of Honor for being a Korean War veteran. Yeah, that's like a whole nother.
That's pretty wild.
A whole nother, for sure. But long story short, he pretty much survived by hiding out in a hollowed out tree trunk like that was in the ground, and he heard American soldiers. And yeah, pretty sick, right?
Yeah.
Really sick. So she ended up going out there, and I think just being on the plane for 16 hours caused a blood clot, and it was just like this really, really, really almost fatal episode. And thank God she's still here today. And Ashton and I think throughout our whole entire relationship, we've always been intentional with everything that we did. So short backstory to fill you in on some context. So me and Ashton, I was in Jersey. He was in Chicago. Well, in college at EIU, Eastern Illinois University. And he sent me a DM. And this was like when I took fitness really seriously. So this is like when I first reached 10K followers, like I was like, damn, like I'm going to be a fitness influencer, right? That's when I was like really trying to do that and push on that heavily. But he DM'd me, and it went from like little DMs back and forth to exchanging Snapchats back and forth, and then phone numbers, and then we're texting, and then now we're FaceTiming 2-3 times a day. Again, complete stranger. Don't know why I was entertaining it, but I was young. I was like, fuck it. What's going to hurt in this situation? Where's the bad? So we ended up doing that for like 3-4 months, and then I flew out to go meet him for the first time, and it ended up being the best thing ever. So again, the intention behind that was I genuinely just wanted to spend time with somebody that I've grew a connection with, even though I've never met him. But on his end, like he was more so just like, I just need to validate the feelings that are present. And it's kind of weird because we've never met each other like physically, but we've shared so many emotional and intellectual conversations with one another that it led us to connect on a deeper level than just physical. So when I obviously went out there and met him, like all the physical just kind of came along with it. And I was like, damn, like this is what relationships are supposed to be like. We are not your traditional relationship. We're not. And Alex and Layla always talk about this, but it's like they went to go and seek therapy for like a couple therapist, right? And she was saying that like, they always tell you like, don't talk about work. You have to go out to this many dates. You need to have sex this many times a week, like that sort of nature, right? And she was like, that doesn't work for me and Alex. Like same with me and Ashton. We love talking about work. There's always a negative connotation around work because it's fucking miserable for most people. But for us, like that shit is everything. It's my life right now. And so like, we're not that traditional relationship, but it all comes down to intention. Like everything that we do, everything that we say to each other is very intentional. And we have the idea that we're going to live this huge life and we want to build an empire so that when we do have kids and, we want to be able to retire our parents, we want to be able to do these big things. And yeah, the finances and the abundance of that will come along with it. But I think it's just the fact that you have to be very genuine in everything that you do. And if you put intention behind every action that you take, good karma is definitely going to come back to you. And then obviously in my hindsight, it's more so my faith. Like God is someone that I most definitely turn to in my life. And I'm a living example that he exists. But again, not going into like religion, but I think it's more so just like having that faith and having that positive mindset and something to turn to, you know, that really helps.
So some positivity, it sounds like, some community, some deep relationships.
Yeah.
I mean, all good things that I think ultimately provide quite the quality of life. And kids, and sounds like there's a lot of goals.
Mm-hmm.
How do you practice these intentions day to day? Like, are you like, do people journal in the morning? People do therapy. I do therapy.
Yeah.
People memo, right? I love voice memos as well. We have all these different resources or tools. How do you approach the day with the intentions you're setting out either for that day or for your life or for that week, you know?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think having Ashton really helps. I think not everybody is blessed with their forever partner, right? I was very blessed to have met him so early on in my 20s that I've been able to grow into so many different versions of myself comfortably because of his support. And I think it's not saying that like he is the only reason why I've gotten to this point, but I don't know. I think it always is going to stem back to my faith. Like, you don't have to be a religious person or believe in God necessarily to accomplish these things. But I think just knowing in the back of my head that this life that I'm living right now has already been written out for me. So the way I explain Christianity is you're in the center of a labyrinth, right? And you have so many different routes, right? Many different routes, some worse than others, right? But it all leads to the same purpose at the very end. There's only one exit. So your whole life is consisted of multiple different paths, and you have to initiate to be able to get to that endpoint. But you'll always still get to that endpoint no matter what. It's just, how stubborn are you? Are you going to listen to your intuition or God, right? Are you going to make the right intentional choices because like you believe in karma, right? And that shit is so true because like the energy that you put out into the world is going to come right fucking back to you. So in this labyrinth, like, are you doing the things and making decisions in life that's going to better you as an individual and help humanity? Or are you doing it for selfish reasons? And if you're doing it for selfish reasons, it's okay to be selfish sometimes, of course. I'm in a selfish period of my life too. But I think ultimately it's like knowing that my life is already planned out for me and I already know the life that I want to live, I start acting that way. So I already act like I'm making the money that I want to. I'm already having the mindset of a millionaire when I'm not there yet at all, if that makes any sense. Yeah. So it's not about morning routines. It's not about journaling. It's not about working out. Those are all nice, like, places to go to kind of center myself, but I don't rely on that necessarily to execute and get to where I want to be in life.
It sounds like the self-talk is the guidance, or that is the practice. It's constantly coming back to this mentality, and you practice this mentality that ultimately we get to see as who Angela is now. Yeah. But it's all the work that's been done inside your head that's ultimately that's now we get to appreciate or get to listen to all these other things. But it sounds like a lot of that self-talk definitely seems to be helpful.
Yeah. And it's all about mindset. Like, if you can just shift all of your limiting beliefs in your life, then you're going to get somewhere. Like, if you sit there and tell yourself, like, I'm depressed or I'm fucking ugly, okay, then you will be depressed and you probably are fucking ugly. You know what I mean? Like, I think people really don't understand, or they underestimate the power of the mind, because again, like, if you can just read a little bit more, like, absorb as much knowledge as you humanly can. Because, like, to me, like, yeah, manifesting, okay, I understand, like, the concept behind that. Journaling, everybody has their own ways of dealing with things. But again, it's like, if you always have that limiting mindset, you're always going to be stuck there. So I think it's also just having that self-awareness and being cognizant of, like, oh shit, like, I'm limiting myself right now. That's where you gain all your power, is kind of having that.
What are some characteristics that this version of Angela is proud of?
Oh my gosh. I think it's silly because I don't know if I would be proud of myself until I hit my goal, which is to make $1 million. And I think maybe that's like where the athlete aspect of me comes through. But I am very proud of myself in a sense where I've been searching, Ben, for so long of who I want to be. And it's like everyone who graduated college went into their careers and they're working full time and they get these promotions and they know what they want to do for the rest of their fucking lives. I am jealous. I was so jealous of that. I was so envious of that because I just felt like I deserved to live a bigger life. And maybe that's fucking selfish of me to say, but I really thought that. I was like, I don't deserve to just live this like regular schmegular life. Like, I want something bigger and I deserve something bigger. And I want to give my parents something bigger, my family something bigger. So when you keep searching and searching, and that's what your 20s are for. Everyone says like 30s is the new 20s because you spend your 20s searching and searching and searching. So I think like I'm just proud of myself to go from person, like every version of myself. And I was able to improve my mindset throughout all of those processes with Ashton's support. And I don't think that I would have had the confidence to really do that without Ashton. Now, needless to say, was I dependent on him? No, but you need a strong, strong inner circle for sure. Like I would be nowhere without my mom, my best friends. Like, you know, I'm really close with my cousins and Ashton especially. Like he's really the one that was like, hey, like if you want to be a personal trainer, go do it. Okay, cool. Hey, if you want to work at a hospital, why don't you just apply? Fuck it. You know, we had no problems finding jobs, which is a blessing, right? So we were able to just jump and hop around until we finally became the people that we wanted to be. And we ended up doing something together. So again, not everyone's life plans out that way, but lucky for us, we've been blessed to do so.
I don't wonder how many people really live that like they get out of college and they go find their thing and they do it. I know that a lot of people do, don't get me wrong, yeah. But I really like wonder what that percentage is because
I know
I was so frustrated like you become an engineer and then you go do engineering things, right? Yeah. Depending on whatever sector you want to go. You want to be an electrical engineer, construction, like you can go all these different routes. And I was there like, I don't even want to do the degree that I'm currently finishing or like the career that this degree leads towards. So like, let's find the next thing. But on the way, I was still proud of the fact that I took the risk or I was believed in myself enough to stand up for myself in times that were like, maybe I wasn't super prepared to start. I built homes. I never built a home, but I learned quickly. Like I created my own sheets and created my own checklists, and I was like, "Oh shit!
I didn't know that. Oh my gosh, that's cool."
It was awesome. At one point, I was building 30 houses at one point at one single time. So you have these 30 projects that you're building, and then you're managing all these people and all these schedules, and you have work. You're signing checks, and like it was a lot to handle. Never been in that position. Never been in that kind of managerial role, but was proud of the fact that I was like, I got up, I attempted something new, took a risk, and was successful at it.
Yes.
And I think continuously understand, like if I go back and look at any single one of those jobs, I don't start off the best ever. I don't think anybody ever does, right?
Yeah.
But as you continue to develop those skill sets and develop, like you give it 2 months, you're like, holy shit, I'm actually really good at this. It's like that confidence and trusting that I can pretty much do anything that I set my mind on.
Yeah.
And that could be starting a consulting company. That could be going into construction. That could be doing real estate more. All these, doing a podcast. Like no matter what it is, I will get good.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I think that you have that. Like you've done that. You I don't think you become a D1 athlete or you don't be a collegiate athlete by just kind of moseying around. Like it takes work, it takes effort, but I think that those things teach you what work and effort looks like.
Yeah.
So then you can you just replicate it. Like there's no difference. There is a book by Dave Tate that I absolutely love called Under the Bar. And it talked about, I read it in high school and it was talking about how a lot of weightlifters, a lot of people in the gym work out a lot and then they go to school and they're just fucking off, or they're in business and they just fuck off. But when they're in the gym, they're fucking hitting hard.
Yeah.
But then when they go home, they don't hang out with their kids. When they go home, they aren't talking to their wife. They're not doing the self-work. It's like, you already know how to work. Just carry it over. What are you doing? Yeah. And I was like, holy shit, why am I sucking so much in school? I know what I'm doing. Like now I just got to apply that same amount of time principle
to anything that I do, and I can get good at anything. And I think that obviously what you guys are doing, and it takes a team. It's not sure you can maybe do it alone, but I think if you have a really strong team, then you can scale much quicker. And so obviously you guys have done that, and you're part of that, right? So like that's something to be proud of. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, the $1 million goal is a good goal, but then another testimony. I'm going to make another reference. I remember listening to a gentleman that was talking about his Navy SEAL testimony.
Oh, wow.
And he would train all of his life. This is all he wanted to do. He made the school. He was like top ranked, whatever. He finally got to graduation, got his medal, got whatever they're paying, whatever they get, and was like, okay.
Now what?
No, like now I've been so passionate about all this time, and I finally reached this goal.
Yeah.
And now I don't even want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
So then I worry sometimes, like when we focus on that $1 million goal, we focus on that house, we focus on like that relationship, that thing that's outside of us, and it almost, we forget what created that.
Yeah.
You create that, right?
Yeah.
And Angela gets to create that. And that's fucking like, that's you. No one will ever take that away from you. Your $1 million might leave. Right? You might spend it. You might make some bad investments. The world might fucking crash and it's just gone. But you are that person that created that. And that is, I think, the beautiful thing about being on this venture of entrepreneurship.
Yeah. And I think like, my gosh, like there were some times where I seriously looked in the mirror and would just like bawl my eyes out because I have no idea what I want to do with my life. Right. But the only difference is that you have to be willing to take the risk. And once you do, you become addicted to the success. So I think the difference is that when people graduate college, some people, maybe most, are like, damn, I don't fucking want to do this for the rest of my life, but I know how to, and I have the degree, and I have the experience, I have the letters of recommendation, like I have everything to be able to pursue it. So people settle. Most Americans settle. And that's something that I just was not okay with. I will never, ever settle. And not necessarily saying until I make $1 million. I just won't settle for a life that I don't want to live. So entrepreneurship came very easy to me because I love helping people, which is why I got into healthcare, right? So it's like, you know, all these qualities and traits about yourself, but it's about taking the risk to doing something. And then when you actually see the success in that is when you get addicted, kind of like bodybuilding, right? Like you start seeing results, you start seeing your body fat percentage dropping. You're like, oh shit, I fucking love lifting. I love meal prepping, right? I love counting macros. It's like, it's about discipline too. Like you got to be able to put in the work because it's not going to just be fucking handed to you. And everyone wants handouts these days too. So I think like when you put all those things together, you start really loving what you do. And that's what's great about me, Ashton, and Brian is that the three of us fucking live for this shit. So it's so easy for us to talk about the business at dinner. That's the topic of conversation when we hang out, when we're drinking and we're hanging out on the weekends. We talk about the business for real. So it's like we just love what we're doing. And I think that's what people need to be seeking is finding something that you genuinely enjoy doing. And if that's work, then okay. And if that makes you money, sick. But I just don't think you're really going to live a fulfillful life unless you do something that you genuinely love to do for the rest of your life. Yeah. Right.
I think I go back and forth with that because I see that a lot on social media.
Sure.
And it's, I forget who, I don't know if it's Jocko, but I don't know if you've seen this guy recently. He like always starts his videos by dropping a dumbbell inside of the inside of his ice tank. He's like a day like 380 something.
Yes, and he just sits in freezing cold water. Yeah, yes, I've seen that.
Oh man, he came out with a really cool definition of discipline, and it's about self-love, not necessarily always doing what you love on the exterior. Like sometimes do I really like? There's days like a couple weeks ago I had a podcast at like Wednesday at 4:00, and that's for me. It's a little bit late. I like between 11 and 2. That's kind of like my ideal time to start recording. And then this guy, we ended up doing a later podcast, and it had already been 2 throughout the day. And do I really, really, really want to? Not almost entirely. I want to learn about the individual. I want to do that stuff, but it's like I needed to stay disciplined with the fact that I committed to a meeting, and we're gonna have this meeting, right? Like sometimes I don't like doing the recording, right?
Of course.
So I'm going to outsource that. Don't get me wrong. Or like the recording, the editing, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to outsource it, right? So
For
I'm going
sure.
to make sure that I create an environment that still allows me to love what I do. And sometimes a lot of times that takes money, right? I hate doing laundry. Hate it. So pay someone to do my fucking laundry.
Yeah.
Right. So like you build a life that allows for me to still love as much as I can. But at the same time, if I don't have those immediate opportunities to pay for something, then I'm going to have to kind of suffer and realize, well, if I do my laundry, then I get to dress better the next day. Or I'm more prepared for the next day. So I don't know. I'm not always super in love with the things that I do, but I think that they provide a lot of value and so then long term, generally, yes. Right. But there are nuances within each aspect that I might not enjoy, but it goes towards the overall growth of the project. And so, yeah, we're going to do these things that I might not like.
Yeah. But I think that all comes with boundaries, right? Because like I love doing what I do, but there's a lot of bad days, shitty days. I mean, when it was just the three of us and we didn't have anybody working in the company. Oh yeah, I was hitting the motherfucking phones like constantly, right? Like in sales, it's a numbers game. So I'm trying to hit, again, there's no KPIs or anything. I'm just hitting my numbers that I need in order for us to get to 100K a month, right? So like those days sucked. I would get on the phone with all kinds of business owners, people talking down to me, people cursing me out. There's some people that literally don't even know who we are and they don't even remember like clicking on our ad or whatever the case is. And there's days where we don't make any sales. Like those are the shit days where the three of us sit down and we're relying on the business for income and we have to give up everything. We don't have anything else besides the business and the money that we generate from the business. So there's a lot of shitty times where we're like, what the fuck? Was this even a good idea? Right? But like you said, there's purpose and there's skill and there's value that comes with everything that you do, but that's all from taking a risk. We took the risk to not have a 9-to-5 and a salary pay because we wanted something more than that. And I think that's what keeps us going, and having the community between the three of us and having our loved ones also. I mean, think about it. My parents were not gung-ho about me getting out of the nursing program that I worked so fucking hard and getting into, right? All the money that my dad spent on my undergraduate, like he is incredible for making sure that I don't graduate with any debt. What kind of I mean, seriously, like my biological father did nothing for me, right? And my stepfather, here he is stepping in and paying and making sure that I don't graduate with debt. Like, you know what I'm saying? So there's so many sacrifices that they made to make sure that I still got an education and went to college and I was still able to get jobs, and I love them so much for that. So think about like how hard it was for them too, to like for me to say, yeah, I just don't want to do this anymore and I'm going to start a business. So
if my daughter told me that, I'd be like, what the, like, I think with this, I think as long as there are like there's a direction, I guess, right? Like to have an understanding, I think it's being on the entrepreneurial side, understanding that you do have to take risks, right?
Yeah.
That comes with it.
Yeah.
But if you said he was a lieutenant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like structured, right? And
super. Yeah.
It goes against. And so like when I started telling my parents I'm going to do it for my own thing, they're like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah,
this is really what you want to do? Like,
you want to know what I had to do? So have you ever read Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
I have not yet.
Please do.
Okay.
He is amazing. Also kind of biased because he's Asian, but anyway.
Okay.
But love him. And I read that book. It's amazing. And on the inside cover, I wrote a letter to my dad before I started the book. And long story short, before I told him about like everything, I was like, hey Dad, there's a book that I really want you to read. He's a reader. And he's like, okay, what's it about? I was like, well, it's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And he was like, okay. Like, you know, obviously just like, yeah, what the fuck are you trying to do? Right. So I came over and it was just me, him, and my mom had left to go to the kitchen, and I pulled out the book. And he was like, oh yeah, okay, so what's this about? And that's when I told him. and I was like, I am pursuing a different career, and I promise you this will be my last. And I literally have probably said that to him like a fucking million times, right? That's what I said when I was an athletic trainer. That's what I was when I was a medical assistant. You know what I'm saying? So like, you can probably see the look on his face like, okay, Angela, here we go with another fucking, this is the last, right? But no, I think he really believed me in that moment, because I've never been somebody who studies. I fucking hate studying. I hate taking tests. I was never a good test taker, and I really mean that. Like, I got so much anxiety because I just know that like I either didn't study enough or I didn't retain enough information, right? I fucking hated anything that has to do with absorbing knowledge. Now I love it because it's helped me become the person that I am today. So I was like, Dad, I read this book, and I think it really, really explains the type of life that I'm trying to live, because what Robert Kiyosaki is talking about is rich dads, which is like when he was a kid, he ended up working for like this, I don't know if it was like I don't remember if it was his friend's father that was a business owner. And then Robert Kiyosaki's father was the poor dad, the dad that pulled out 401ks, worked the 9 to 5, went through the typical American dream route, right? And the book is the only way that I was able to explain to my father, like, actually how I made this decision and why. So he read the book. He actually finished it last month, and he was like, can you come over one day this week so we can talk about it? And yeah, we haven't done that yet. But again, I just think that there's a level of trust that they have with me. And also just the fact that like, because I've been absorbing and reading and really helping my mindset and get to a level. Because again, like I also want to be in this space and be knowledgeable. I don't want to just be this girl that is a part of the industry but doesn't know anything about it. So again, the way that I'm talking about it, the different languages that I'm really saying in terms of like business talk, sales talk, he's just like, wow, like you are a different person. And I can tell that you're taking this very seriously, and I support it. So like, even without having that sort of discussion, again, he's a man of very few words, very, very few words. And it was just cool to see that from them. So it wasn't too hard getting them on board. Because obviously if like I tell them I want to be a millionaire, I mean, what parents don't want to hear their, daughter or son say that, but,
mine.
Yeah,
Seriously, yeah.
Really.
Not a big fan of anything business related. When I first got my first salary job, it wasn't really a salary job. It was still a commission job, but I was getting 50% commission.
Okay.
And
50. That's high.
Commission.
Okay.
And selling construction, selling roofs, and so like you're selling $20,000-$30,000 of product. You're making in a single day.
That was great commission.
Pretty great
For sure.
My parents were like, "Why don't you just stay here, retire with them, get a state job, just retire there? Like that's all you need to do. Like if you go the business route, there's too much headache." We've seen it. My grandfather has owned several businesses, and so it's like we understand that life, and that's not something that we want for you. And it's like, but I don't think that all business owners operate the same way that maybe you saw that experience run. There's other ways to run businesses, and there's also different businesses to be inside of. And so I understand there's definitely still the need for specific KPIs, which I understand, but at the same time, it's like I don't need to be the same person that maybe you experienced, right? Like that you had the unfortunate experience with.
Absolutely, for sure. And I actually just dropped a video about being careful who you take advice from, because most people, when they seek advice, they're thinking of their parents, family, their closest friends. But that's dangerous because you have to look at who you're taking your advice from. If you're taking your advice from somebody who maybe tried something and then failed, of course they would have the stance on, hey, don't do it because I did it and I wasn't able to get somewhere. Okay, well, we're two different people. And you can obviously see somebody who has more discipline than the other, someone who's more athletic or someone who's faster, right? Someone who's taller. Everybody is so different in their ways. And so I always say that to my younger cousins. I'm like, be careful who you're taking advice from and who you're asking advice from, because sometimes asking advice from family can be detrimental. And I love my family to death, but no one in my family has ever owned a business. No one has ever started something from the ground up, or has been an entrepreneur. Like, I don't come from aunts and uncles that have done that. And that's really just because we're an immigrant family. Like, they came here from South Korea and living the American dream. And damn, we went through some shit when we were younger kids, for sure. But it's like, again, like they had to do stuff to survive out here, which was to go to school, get an education, get a job, like that sort of shit. So of course that's the type of advice that because that's what worked for them. So I can see like why your parents would be very hesitant about supporting you through that process. But I think it really just stems down to like the fact that we're all different people, and some people will execute and some won't.
I think where it finally started to shift, maybe even before this, but I think I got a couple sponsors, and they're like, "You're getting paid to do this?" Yeah. Get paid to,
they start questioning.
Like, you just get paid to talk? It's like, well, it's like getting paid to talk with creating content and doing this whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. And then
sure.
The Manscaped deal. Mm-hmm. And they're like, okay, like, yeah, we'll buy stuff like 100%. And it's like, yep. It's like it's, I think finally a little bit more bought in, but it's still, I think, a level of skepticism around it.
Of course. Like, it's the uncertainty.
Correct.
That's really all it is. But everyone is afraid of that.
I have that. Like,
Yeah,
you guys telling me that it's uncertain doesn't help me feel like I'm already feel like
thanks parents. Yeah.
Where's, like, give me some valuable information here.
I know. And it sucks though, because it's like you have that idea of like, okay, like, well, they're family, they should support me. But if you think about it, who is always the one that calls you fat, tells you that you look like shit, that you smell like shit? People who literally will say whatever they want to you. It's family. And so Ashton and I even talked about that. Like, we're not going to allow that under our roof. And that's why we want to host so much in the future, is because if I hear some fuck shit, I'm going to address it, because that's not allowed. We're breaking that generational trauma of constantly talking about weight, constantly talking about what's good for you, what's bad for you. Because guess what? I don't really give a shit about your opinion at the end of the day. I know you love me and you care about me, but like, for you to say this many hurtful things and not really support me, that's not what love, unconditional love is in my eyes. So I have friends that I'm way closer to than my own family, which is wild. But to me, friendships are like family, right? So like, if they're my ride or dies, like, I'm good with that. And I think it's healthy to take space from family and have those boundaries, because there's just levels to it that I can't even fathom. Like, family is so detrimental in some cases. So
and I think I don't know what I'm gonna make a little bit of a generalization. So if I'm wrong, then correct me, please. Okay. I think so. I have a lot of Asian clients.
Yeah, hit me.
The similarities between cultures, between the Mexican culture, the Hispanic culture, and the Asian culture are very similar. It's
for sure
weird, the perceptions of parents and like the odd conservatives, but then the talking down to, like, the generational traumas are both very similar.
Super
it's weird.
Similar. It is weird. And it's crazy because so Ashton's family's Mexican, right? And I come from a super Korean family. More Americanized, I would say, though. But yeah, it's just like the way they talk to each other. Like, sometimes I'm at his grandma's. They do this amazing, I don't know if it's a Mexican culture, but it's like everyone goes to the grandparents' house like every Sunday to like eat, and everybody lives in the same like neighborhood, like very, very close. Again,
we have like a little compound where everybody is
exactly. It's like a community.
We have a sidewalk built between the backyards that connects all the backyards, and the only thing that separates them is a gate.
See, like, first of all, love that. Like, I think that's so cool. But again, the stuff that they say to each other, and meanwhile, I'm not fluent in Spanish, but I can fucking tell when someone's being disrespectful for sure. Like, you can hear it, right? So I'm looking at Ashton like, did she just, and he just doesn't even bat an eye at it. Meanwhile, vice versa, we're at my family party or whatever, and she's hearing the stuff of like my aunt saying this, my uncle saying that, and just again, like, weight is such a sensitive topic, and that just seems to be the shit that we talk about all the time. Like, oh, you look a little fatter today, or like, what the fuck? Like, thanks. Okay. Like, oh my gosh. Didn't need that, but good to see you too. You know, right? Like, really annoying. So it's wild, but it's trauma. Like, it does get to you. And not to say that I didn't grow up with like body dysmorphia, but I definitely was affected by a lot of those comments being made. I was super self-conscious. I tried not to wear like too tight of clothing around my family, like little shit like that. So me and Ashton are hoping that we can build a family and a culture that literally does not allow that, because it's not fucking cool, man.
I think it just gets tiring. It's like, if there's a concern, then you can express that concern with some love.
Of course.
If, Angela, you know, you've been drinking too much. Like, but it's approaching it like, hey, is everything okay? Like, I see you're going out all the time and it seems like you're getting super wasted. Like, is everything good, or are you just having a good time? And even if you are, like, just want to make sure, like, you're not driving, like, everything's okay. Yeah, everything's good. I'm just, you know, this is what I like to do. Okay, well, just maybe go to the doctor, get your liver checked. Okay, cool. And then, like, leave it alone, right? Because ultimately it's your decision at the end of the day.
And we're adults.
We're fucking adults.
We're fucking adults. I think that's the hardest part, is like parents understanding that you are a grown ass adult. And in ways, of course, like my parents still support me. Doesn't necessarily mean financially, but I just mean like, of course. But I think it's funny when you hear parents that are like, why don't my kids want to spend time with me and like shit like that? Well, what are you saying and doing when they're around? Because I think that they would be way more open to spending time with you and including you in things if you weren't such an asshole all the time. And, you know, I just think that, again, I'm not a parent, so I have no idea what that's like, but I would hope that I would want my child to want to spend more time with me. So why would I say the most hurtful things to deteriorate their self-confidence and self-esteem?
That doesn't sound beneficial at
like,
all.
For anybody in the room, really.
No. You can have a kid who has less self-worth and confidence inside of your house. It's more like kids more likely to just go off and start to early sexual acts, earlier engagement in either drinking or drugs. Like you're gonna find that self-worth or self-value somewhere, right? Yeah. And if it's not internal, like I'm worthy, I can work hard and do these things, and it's gonna be like, man, give me a hit of the next thing. Like, because if I'm not worth it, then, you know, what, fuck it, maybe this will make me worth it, or this will get me in a community or a crowd that's outside of my family that they're cool, and so I'm now there. And it's like, well, was it really worth it to call somebody just like?
It's hard out there.
It's rough.
It's so tough. Like, and just holding your tongue, and then like I think with like Asian and Hispanic culture, it's like respecting your elders. So God forbid you fucking say some shit, you're about to get slapped with a slipper or a wooden stick, like whatever is in close proximity. You know, like it's tough, but hopefully that will change over time, I think, because I think that's like with a lot of like immigrant families in general, like just like the old ways of parenting and households. So,
and friendships, and like it bleeds, you know. And I think that's my big point. I think that I've really appreciated getting to know a lot of diverse people, and like really just people are fucking people. People are humans, and we can all get along. It's just there's a way to communicate. There's a way to set boundaries. There's a way to check somebody and say, hey, wasn't okay with that. Like, we can still be friends, just wasn't okay with that thing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then depending on their reactions, like, okay, yeah, you're like even closer probably in my inner circle, because you were able to handle that well. We were able to converse, and then we bonded over that. And now like you're somebody that I trust that's going to respect my boundaries. Yeah. Versus if I tell you, hey, I didn't like that, and you're like, well, why not? I'm not gonna play that game. You can you can fuck right off.
Right. And I think like, so with friends, for example, me and Ashton literally went through a season of pruning where we just cut motherfuckers off left and right. No problem, no hesitation. And the reason that we did that was because we're protective of our peace, but we're also very protective of just who we are as people. We know that we have good intentions when we come into relationships. And if we're good friends, we are going to find a way, because I think delivery is everything, right? So if there's something that I disagree with that I know is going to hurt you in the long run, and I bring that up to you as a friend with absolute, like, no malicious intent behind what I'm saying, just coming from a place of love, and you reject it and you turn that back into me being a bad person for being rational and telling you that, hey, fucker, what you're doing is actually detrimental to your future or to your mental health or whatever the situation is, and you can't face that. I'm doing what I can as a friend, but obviously that's up to you to decide. And so they ended up talking shit about us, saying stuff to other people, posting shit about us. And to me, that's like, you're a fucking phony, man. Like, you are so lame for that, to have to sit there like a coward and blame somebody else instead of just looking in the mirror and being like, damn, she was a good friend for reaching out. Like, I'm not somebody who just brings up random shit and tries to start a fight with you. Everything that I'm telling you that I disagree with is purely because of the fact that I'm trying to look out for you. And again, I'm human too. I make mistakes. I'm not a fucking perfect person, but I know that I at least have good judgment of character. And if I see that you're acting in a way that I know you're not, because we've been friends for so long, why would I not bring that up to you? I think good friends are the ones that can sit you down and tell you to your face that you're fucking up and you're doing something wrong, right? And I think there's just a level of friendship that I have with the friends that I do now currently have, which is only a few, to be honest. That's something that we all do with when we check each other all the time, and that has strengthened so many relationships. And the ones that just couldn't hang and couldn't deal with pure and utter honesty and genuine relationships are the ones that weren't worth working on, you know?
I think those same people that do end up like turning it back, that take that victim mentality, are the same people that always say that it's too hard to find friends.
Yeah.
I can't find friends. I can't find people. Like, why can't I just find good people? It's like, well, look around. Look in the mirror a little bit.
Yes.
Are you a good person?
Yeah. Same thing with clients. This one client we let go. Literally, we let them go because they tried sitting there and they're like, we have hired 5 different marketing companies and like all of you are scams, right? And now obviously as a business owner, the 3 of us know that we are not scamming people. Now, remind you, there are some businesses that are scamming people, but we are not one of them. No, we don't do that. And again, like, we hold our name to the very highest. So obviously Ashton was like very, very much offended by like his unprofessional comment that he made towards us during this call. And Ashton was like pretty much just saying like, you know, you worked with so many companies like us, you're saying, and you're saying that 5 out of 5 of successful companies, agencies, right, are the problem. But he recently told us, like, before we hired him on, which was a red flag, that he fired all his employees and like fired like got rid of multiple partnerships, like just like this huge sob story of like how he just pruned like a shit ton of people and was like rebranding. And again, of course, like me being the director, I'm like, okay, well, on the client success side of things, let's hope to find you results and help you launch this brand new rebrand or whatever. And then slowly we started to realize like, holy shit, it's a him problem. It's not those marketing companies or whatever the case, because we tried everything in our power for him to see success. We have a very specific process. And in order to expedite the scaling, like we have to implement these processes in place to make sure that the infrastructure actually lasts when you go to scale. I mean, you need the fucking layup, man. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't just have it happen overnight or just be something that falls into your lap. Like, you have to put in the work, and he just wasn't. He wasn't willing to work with us on anything. Just pointed the finger. So this victim mentality is detrimental for people, and they'll fucking sit there and wallow in their self-pity forever. And those are the kind of people that end up alone. So unless you're willing to hear other people out and come to the self-actualization that like, damn, I need to change, because I do believe people change, that's when they'll hopefully see a breakthrough. And I wish the best for all the people that we did unfriend. I do wholeheartedly mean that. I want the best for anybody, and unfortunately, I just can't be a part of that. And that was okay with me.
Yeah. I'm giving you all you got to do is with you.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Come
dude,
on.
I got the layup right here, man. Like, come on. Like, yeah. So people are interesting.
People are interesting. But that's like, I don't know. That's why I love doing this, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you get to you're getting to take time to sit with people and learn about them. And I think the more that you sit with people and take the time to listen and have a conversation with somebody, you can kind of gauge on. I think it's only like a very nice transferable skill I can put into any sort of business place.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess this is also a business place, but it's a little bit more casual. But either way,
Yeah.
It's nice being able to have a conversation and be able to almost vet people. It's like, yeah, this is a person I want to do business with.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a person that I should probably, I don't know. There's something in here that I don't. So either dig a little bit more, or maybe, because sometimes people are just bad conversationalists, right? They can't deliver very well. They just don't really know where they're at, and that's okay. But maybe we're not at the right time to have a sit down and conversation yet.
Yeah.
But I wish you all the best, and let's go ahead and have a conversation later in the future. Once you kind of get that all figured out, and then we can figure this out later. But I don't know, getting to sit and vet people and understand and have a conversation is valuable.
Yeah. And I think that's good for any partnership. If you can both come from a place of like non-biased opinions and just fill the room with your presence and just intuition and be intentional in everything that you do, I mean, something's got to give. And that's like the whole journey with entrepreneurship. Like every fucking decision you make needs to be intentional for the business and for you. And we've been able to scale this baby up the way that we have, just the three of us. So it's been a fun ride.
Oh, yeah. What's to come next for name of the company and
Active Solutions?
There you go. What's come next for Active Solutions?
Yeah. Honestly, it's been really cool with this hiring process. So I've kind of overtaken that portion of the business until we hire someone to hire people. But with Active Solutions, we have really big goals, and we have a lot of projections. And actually today, because yesterday was the first of the month, every first of the month, the three of us sit down and we write down numbers, our projections, like what type of revenue, what kind of changes we need to make, our offer, our systems. I mean, we do everything that we can to perfect our craft. And it's hard to say what's going to come next, because every day is so different and it's so exciting. But the three of us are not going to stop until we get this to where we need it to be, which is a big picture. We're actually trying to build the business so that it can operate on its own without the three of us in it, to make it an asset. So again, we're just making sure to plan that and take those approaches and build that infrastructure from the beginning, so that by the time we get to a good sweet spot and we're making very consistent revenue with where our goal lies, then we will hire a CEO and a CRO and a new director, and then hopefully sell the business. And that's what we're really trying to do.
Move on to the next project.
Yeah.
What would be the next project?
Gosh, well, I think through that experience, the three of us are going to learn a lot about running a business. I mean, when the good things happen, what to do when the bad things happen. So we'd like to eventually get into like coaching or consulting for other business owners that are trying to start something, because again, we've done it, or by that time we would have done it. So I feel like I'd be really comfortable giving advice at that time, because I've created the skill set and the knowledge base to be able to vet myself out to give that sort of feedback to individuals, because I'm not a phony. I'm not ever going to be one. So I'm not going to pretend like I'm this person when I'm not there yet, right? So that's bigger plan, but the three of us would love to get into that.
Very cool. What is the next plan for you individually? Like, where are some like paths of area of growth that you would like to see yourself kind of like work on in the future?
Yeah, it's a funny funny question because Ashton asked me that yesterday, and I've always dreamed of being a mother. I know that's super, like, I don't know if it's cliche or not the answer you were necessarily thinking I would say, but I think that bringing life into this very, very corrupt world is scary, first of all. Very nervous to have a child with how the world is right now, but that's besides the fact. But I've always wanted to nurture my own children to see the world differently, because I know there's so much bad in it, and because I know I can't protect them from all of it. If I could just build a really solid, again, infrastructure and foundation for them early on in their lives, so that when these things happen, that it won't take them by surprise. That is my biggest goal. Of course, I want them to be smart. Of course, I want them to be successful and have these different skills. But ultimately, it's like building that foundation in the beginning with your children, knowing that they're going to step into this awful world. But I do believe there's more good than there is bad. I know we all like to focus on the bad, and I want my kids to do good in this world. And if me and Ashton can build an empire and be a family of business owners and set our kids up for success, I mean, it would just be awesome to kind of have a full generation of that continue to pass on. So yeah, I want to be a mom. I want to be able to like nurture my children. I want to be able to travel. I love traveling. Ashton hasn't ever been out the country, so we're planning our trip to Australia and Korea next year.
Oh yeah.
So it's just a lot of big things. So it's crazy because I can't even think about that yet or fathom that until we get this business up and running. So it's tough to answer that.
That's fair. Favorite last couple books you've read or recommendations for books? Do you have any?
Yeah, The Art of, what is it? The Art or The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, I think.
I saw you
the
post that one recently. It was either you or Ashton that posted that
The
recently.
Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. I love that. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, also a really great book. And honestly, I listen to the Hormozis podcasts. Love reading, but again, time is money. So I spend a lot of time like doing a lot of shit all the time. So any chance that I have where I can focus on something while I'm physically doing something, I will throw that podcast on, literally through the speakers of the house.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll just listen and I just absorb. But I think The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, the one thing that it taught me was to not give a fuck, like regardless, because we're all human. We're all going to make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. So if you can just accept the bad and embrace the suck, then you're going to be fine. You're going to be totally fine. And I used to care so much about what people thought of me. And then I was trying to create content and become this influencer or become this person on social media that I fucking wasn't. I wasn't that. And now that I'm finally stepping into like who Angela is, I started to not give a fuck about what people thought of me, because at the end of the day, I am me and I'm doing this for me. And then Rich Dad, Poor Dad, obviously we spoke about that earlier, and it just really paints the picture for you as to why owning a business and kind of stepping into that career is different than your typical 9-to-5 and going to college, getting a degree in you know, that sort of fashion. So 2 really great books. But the Hormozis, again, are really great individuals because they're really transparent about the process. They don't cut any corners to get to where they are right now, and they don't fucking bullshit. They don't. Hormozis, they all they do is provide value, and that's like the biggest thing, is just value. So $100 million Offers is a great book. $100 million Leads, another great book for anybody that's looking to get into the agency or high ticket space. Really awesome individuals.
Awesome. Where can people find you?
Well, you can go to our website, activesolutions.ai. That's our Instagram handle. You can find us on LinkedIn as well. But yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Anything else?
No, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, cool. Of course. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. Very valuable.
Thanks.
Tune in, share it, like it, subscribe, all the things. Love y'all.
See
Bye.
ya. That was fine.